0345 6060 973 is the number for the Property Hour here on LBC. Now, thanks to Direct Line Landlord Insurance, today we're discussing the key questions a landlord should ask if they're buying a leasehold property. And with us is Kate Faulkner, Managing Director of propertychecklists.co.uk. So, Kate, what is the difference? First of all, let's start with the basics between leasehold and a freehold property.
Not always well understood.
No.
So if you own a property as the freeholder, you own the property, the physical bricks and mortar itself and everything in it, and you own the land that bricks and mortar sits on. When you own a leasehold, what you're doing is effectively renting for a period of time, say for example 125 years, or it might be 999 years, depending on the length of the lease. You are renting the internal space as well as the communal areas. And as a result of that, you pay more charges and you have somebody who is called the freeholder who owns all of the bricks and mortar and the land it sits on. So you're more of a tenant, really, when you buy a lease.
And if you're a landlord considering buying a property and it's leasehold, then are there questions you need to ask?
Absolutely. Would you believe the first question you need to ask is, am I allowed to let the property? Because some leases do not allow you to sublet the property on to somebody else. So that's the first question to ask. We know people have bought at auction, thought they could rent it out and then found out they couldn't and had to put the property back on the market. Second thing, which is probably to me one of the biggest things, is there's something called a sinking fund. Now, the reason you need to know that is that often in a leasehold, you might be responsible, for example, for a share of the cost of a new roof or the cost of new water tanks. This can run into tens of thousands of pounds. And if it happens to come in the year that you own it, unless there is a sinking fund, you will have the burden of the whole of that roof cost, even though it'll last for the next 25, 30 years. So with a sinking fund, it typically means that money has been paid in by all of the owners throughout time, and therefore the proportion that you have to pay for major works is less. So another very critical question. And the third one really is all about what is the length of the lease. Anything under 80 years may mean you can only buy it with cash. So if you buy it at 85 years, and then you try and sell it at 75, it might not be worth anything like it was before. Not great from an investment perspective. And also, because you're renting that property, you will be effectively paying a service charge and ground rent, and you need to know how much they are and also how much they can increase by, because that can really eat into your profits.
If you had a choice and it was leasehold or freehold, which one would you go for?
So I would always ideally go for freehold. Having said that, you can pick up some bargains if you know what you're doing when it's leasehold. So that's a little bit of a caveat. But the problem with leasehold, it is more restrictive. Effectively, you are renting space, if you like, from another landlord. And the value of that investment is only as good as the freeholder who is running it. So if you've got a really good freeholder, knows what they're doing with a fair lease, there's not that much difference between buying a leasehold and a freeholder. However, you've got to bear in mind things like you will pay your freeholder to buy the buildings insurance. And if you're then letting that property out, you might have to buy more insurance on top of it because that building's insurance might not cover you for letting it to a third party. The other thing is the freehold. You might have a wonderful freeholder, but they might sell it on to somebody else who isn't very good. So there are all sorts of extra problems involved. So if you can get a good deal, that can sometimes be a good idea to buy a leasehold, but otherwise I tend to go for freehold where I can.
And what kind of experts can help you through this then?
So there are two essential experts. The first one is you need a legal person that is dealing with leases on a daily basis. They need to know what to look for. These things can be 100 pages long. So you need somebody that loves trekking through every single clause and somebody that has almost been there and done it and seen every fault in a lease that's affected landlords in the past. So that's the first person. The second person you often need is a surveyor who is able to value a lease. For example, if you want to extend the lease. So sometimes when you buy a leasehold property, you might buy it for cash for a great price, then you want to extend the lease so you can put it back onto the market, and you can actually sell it on for a higher price because the property might now be mortgageable because it's got a 125-year lease. And you need to have somebody to help you value that, and that needs to be a specialist Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyor that knows how to value leases. So those are your two absolute experts.
OK, Kate, thanks for that. And thanks to Direct Line Landlord Insurance. For more information and the chance to win a tech bundle, go to lbc.co.uk.